Netgain Motors, home of the Warp, Trans Warp, and Impulse motors, introduced the improved Warp 9 motor. The Warp 9 is a 9 1/4 diameter series wound DC motor with a double-ended shaft featuring 26 improvements for 2010. Externally, the terminal studs have been enlarged from 3/8 to 1/2 inch diameter. Bigger is better. On the inside, a larger commutator, new brush composition, and split brush design with heavier springs handle even higher voltages and currents than before. Our new fan increases airflow by almost 50% over typical paddle-style fans. And all this translates into improved performance. For even more performance or larger applications, take a look at Netgain's Warp 11 motor, an 11 3/4 diameter series wound DC motor for even greater torque and power. Since 2002, Netgain Motors has been leading the EV industry with precision, performance, and price. Visit us at go-ev.com. Netgain Motors, warp power to go.
Hello, I'm Jack Rickard with EVTV. This is my compadre and consigliere, El Brain Noto,
It's good to be here.
who I've been fussing at all day.
All week.
All week. Okay.
And it's not even as hot, so I don't know.
Oh, no, it's actually, the weather's broken. It's very nice.
It is kind of nice. And we're seated. We've got chairs on the
got
set.
Stools.
Yeah.
The set's just getting more polished all the time.
It is, and it'll do in another 5 years.
I
left.
saw you got us to sign up for the
We've got a
show.
little sign up for the show, yeah. Just to fill in some space.
Richard Flingy, son of Richard Flingy.
Ah, son of Richard Flingy, okay.
Yes, I've known Richie since we were 4 or 5 years old.
Oh, geez.
And he's kind of helping us get ready for the show. By the way, I hired Alice Mason, Jill's cousin. Used to work at General Motors.
Oh, really? Okay.
And she should be here next week.
Okay, good.
We're adding a few people just as contractors for the show thing.
I think we've got a couple more, too. Got to get some video people and things like that, some more interns. Yeah.
We keep having dumb ideas, and then they keep taking off.
I know we got to stop doing that.
The latest was Brian's noting that, well, you know, in the real conventions we used to do vendor floor. I said, yes, but we had more than a couple hundred people coming, didn't we?
We had a couple hundred, even more, with the vendors alone.
Yeah, we had a couple hundred vendors. But he's kind of done a mailing and done some calling. Where are we at?
Well, you know what we did is we had just charted out a real, you know, not anything very ambitious, really, just 20 booth spaces if everything went well, row of 10 and a row of 10.
Okay,
and,
so you mapped out 20?
Mapped out 20 and did a mailing, talked to some people, and we sold a completely solid one with a check in hand to our friends Josh at Recharge Car. Okay. And he got the pick of the very first booth, and he's picked the corner booth, booth 100 up in the front. And it looks like our friends that provide the vehicles for us, Special Edition Inc. Carrie and company are going to bring out a roller.
You know, they would probably do pretty well with that.
I think so, and I think give people an opportunity who haven't seen the cars to see what they'd be working with in just kind of a bare bones roller that someone could personalize, customize, and see with battery box placement. They'll be able to see our vehicles. I think that'd be really additive to the show for them to do that. And Rich has talked to a few people over the last couple of days, and we've got some more prospects out there that are pretty solid. Trying to think of who we're thinking of.
Current EV Tech.
Current EV Tech, yeah, Dave Coy out there. And I believe the electric car of Utah or something like that. So keep those cards and letters coming. We're getting down to where we will have only 16 spots available, and we'd love to have people out there showing their parts and making some money. And I think that'll be a great addition to the show. Okay.
Well, we'll if they want it, we'll have it.
Okay. They're coming in.
So yeah, we'll. Keep those cards and letters coming in.
And we've got what about a little over 5 weeks until the show Wednesday night, September 21st. It begins, and I think we've got a deadline for registration. discount coming up on the 15th?
Yes, the 15th of August is the end of the discounts.
Okay.
After that, we're pretty much there. I got a note from Simon Wilkinson in New Zealand. He and his best mate and his dad are coming.
Oh, yeah, I
for
saw
the
that
event.
email. Wow.
But they have EVTV nights, I think, with alcohol.
Kind of like Monday Night Football? Chips and cookies.
And he copies all our videos onto hard drives for people.
Oh, really?
He said we're at 191 gigabytes, and this
Oh,
week
my
will be
God.
our 99th show.
Oh,
Next
man.
week will be the 100th
It'll be
episode.
the 100th anniversary, our golden anniversary.
Right, of EVTV. Now, why don't we know those sorts of things?
We're probably so close. It's like the dentist kid, never gets his teeth done.
Right. So
We don't want to
that's,
know, Jack.
We're having fun. I don't know why. Again, not a big show this week. I keep saying that. Last week's was 2 hours.
It was 2 hours and 20
21.
minutes. I know.
It's too big. So
was huge.
maybe this will be a briefer show. I did have a couple of news items.
Okay.
The one I found most interesting and almost disturbing. SAE is working on a new J1772 standard.
Okay.
Now, I mentioned that we had 4 charge points up here at the federal courthouse
Yes.
with the Avcon paddles.
Yes, with the
Well, that
paddles.
was a J1772 standard. Now we have the new ones,
Little earlier standard.
the 2010 J1772 standard. If you have enough standards, you don't have a standard anymore.
Yeah, then nothing will be standardized.
And so the points, but this is, as I've said, I don't think the level 2 chargers are. There's a couple guys in Orlando who have put them in hotels, and with the charge point thing where they'd make a little bit off of it. One guy's had it in for 5 or 6 months. He's had 2 cars charged there.
Really?
In that time.
Oh my goodness.
And so again, the expectation or the theory is that people are hesitant to buy electric cars because of lack of infrastructure.
Right. Yeah, they're doing the chicken or the egg kind of calculation.
I do not think so. I think a certain type of infrastructure would be appropriate, but it's not hard to fix up your own garage or house to charge. This is trivial expense and amount of work. And indeed, that's where most people, in study after study, it's adequate for 99.99% of their charging.
Oh, exactly. And we had something in the Florida Sentinel. They've got 70 charging stations out there that no one uses.
No one uses.
No one uses.
And you can't really actually buy an electric car in Florida.
can't buy
there's no volts, there's no
right.
leaves.
There's no nothing. So they've got charging stations, no cars, and no one's using them, obviously.
SAE is working on a combo coupler that would allow the level 2 charging or level 3 charging up to 90 kilowatts. And level 3 charging is kind of a different deal. Because the batteries are getting even better as we go, as far as the quick charging, some of them were, as I said last week with a very small particle company, we're looking at 6-minute charging on batteries.
It's amazing.
From 20 minutes now.
Yeah.
And so the batteries will do it if you had a charge point and the equipment to put that level of current into the battery, intelligently. The batteries don't care. And that opens up a different kind of infrastructure issue. That's like, I can drive my car, St. Louis, 110 miles away now. Almost every car we have will just make it, make it and a little bit. This Speedster Redux will do 150 miles, but almost all of them, the extreme max end of the range will be 110.
Yeah, 110, yeah.
Now I pull into St. Louis and I'm flat. I'm flat. I'm down 95% discharged.
Right.
Closing in on 100. What do?
You've got to charge for hours if you can get a place to charge.
If I could get a hotel lined up with a little 120, I could check into the hotel, and about 2 days later, I'd
check
be
out.
fully charged.
They'd be kicking, you'd be squatting in your room, the sheriff be kicking you out.
On the other hand, if I had a place I could pull in and charge up 80%, now I can drive around St.
Drive
Louis and
around,
stuff.
yeah.
Stop there and charge up again on the way home, and you know, it's kind of downhill from St. Louis.
Yeah, right, that's right.
Ridiculous.
Most of the way.
So intercity travel, and I'm not going to drive coast to coast in a Porsche Speedster electric. But if I did want to go to St. Louis or Memphis, the ability to do so by having the quick charge would be. So I have to tell you that I do believe this deep charging would diminish our cycle life of the LiFePO cells, not egregiously.
But you're talking someone probably driving the equivalent of, you know, 60, 70,000 miles a year or something if you needed the quick charge at the end of every 100 or 200 miles.
Right, that still wouldn't be an appropriate use for an electric car.
Yeah, right.
If you take 10 trips a year or something and
that
quick charge.
That would no big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal.
So the one thing that is a little bit disturbing, there's another idea floating around there that was actually originally posited, to my knowledge, by Caccioni and the AC Power guys out there with the that did the power plant for the Mini Cooper.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that is vehicle to grid.
Okay.
Now, I like vehicle to grid in that I want the grid to charge my car.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like the idea of using my car as an emergency power supply for my house.
Right, a big battery backup, yeah. Yeah.
They have something else in mind, and that is control of my car by the utility company.
Uh-oh.
SAE is teaming with IEEE in incorporating a communications protocol in the SAE combo thing for, it's called IEEE 1901-2010, which is supposedly the most mature, robust, and advanced broadband over power line communication standard. Now, we played with this going back 20 years ago.
Yep.
Passing data over power lines. The power lines are not that clean. And of course, they have a 60 hertz signal on it, but at the data rates we're talking about, that's almost DC by comparison.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so you can impress a data signal on the AC power signal and retrieve that and do pretty good data rates. Okay. And so they're talking about incorporating this where your charger in your car through this SAE J1772 combo would be able to talk to the grid, and the grid could talk to it. Okay. And the concept here is that the utility companies would then have this vast base of electric cars that it could use to pad their electric grid.
Electric grid, yeah.
Well, wait a minute. My batteries have a cycle life.
Right.
And I've got the car parked and they're sitting there discharging from
you
it.
want to come out and use your car.
Right. And then charging and it all be up
all
to Ameren UE.
Yeah, and adding a lot of cycles to your car. Yeah.
Why is it I don't like this idea? They say they'll pay you for that. I wonder how much anyone's ever going to get paid by the utility company to hook up their car to the grid.
Yeah.
I bet that's...
If anything, not much.
They'll probably charge you to do that.
Yeah,
one way or the other.
There'll be so many fees attached to it that you'll never make a buck.
I have not heard a persuasive argument from anyone that would appeal to me about vehicle to grid.
Okay.
Beyond this, I could pull my car in the garage, hook it up to my grid, and power my home from it.
Right.
In the case that they, once again, fail to deliver the power because of an ice storm or something. Now, beyond that, I have no interest in vehicle to grid, and I have not heard anyone, everyone assumes this would be a good thing. a smart grid with smart cars all talking to each other right smartly. What's in this for me?
Yeah, when we'll be able to drive them,
What
they'd
would
all
the
be
advantage
communicating.
be? Put my appliances under the control of the power company.
Yeah.
I'm a little lukewarm on this. So, what have you dug up any news?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it kind of dovetails. One of Nissan's executives was, I guess, that they're celebrating 10,000 sales of Leafs worldwide. And Simon Spruill was talking about the Leaf. And I guess there are a couple of things that they're concerned about. And one is what we were talking about last week that he's come out and talked about. I don't know if he watched our show or not, was the battery packs in the Leaf and having to replace them and the expense of the battery packs. Now he's saying, he's trying to make the analogy that if your car went bad, that you would only replace what's wrong with your car, and usually it's not the entire, let's say, engine. But he's saying you would replace a module. Now, he's saying here that modules would be hundreds of dollars or euros. I can't imagine that
That's what we said, $682.
Yeah, and I can't, but there are hundreds of, how many modules, 80?
48.
48, yeah. And so he's trying to, quell the concern as it is here of, the battery packs. So they're out there. They know it must be an issue, whether it's a PR issue,
I
or whether
actually
it's a
saw
real
a video
issue.
of that, and he's not doing a very good job of quelling anything.
Yeah.
In fact, he didn't even really sound me very knowledgeable about batteries. I have had a number of our viewers just go insane that my casting aspersions on the beloved Leaf sales numbers. I was very, very clearly, and I thought clearly, discussing the sales of electric cars in the United States. They rushed to point out that Nissan has sold 10,000 vehicles worldwide, and somehow they think this is better.
I'd be embarrassed if they sold 10,000 in the United States.
Walk with me, talk with me. The United States has 307 million people, and they've sold a certain number of Leafs. The world has 6.7 billion people, and they've almost doubled the number of Leafs.
Right, worldwide, yeah.
Your case that you're making is inverted. I don't even know how to respond.
It's actually worse worldwide.
It's an order of magnitude worse than here in the U.S. If they can't sell them here, but there is a place where the density of them is higher than the U.S., and that would be Japan, where they were manufactured.
Right.
But also, have you ever driven in Tokyo?
No, but I've seen it. It looks like a mess.
It's an interesting experience. I was stationed in Japan many years ago and have done all this. Driven in Tokyo and Yokohama and points north and south. And I can tell you that for a fairly meager number of miles, you spend quite a time in a car.
In the car, yeah.
And an electric car makes a great sense because it doesn't use much energy parked in traffic.
Right, when it's sitting still in traffic.
And the Tokyo Electric Power Company have put in 150 CHAdeMO stations.
So see, they've got the fast charge. Yeah.
And it's just a different world over there. I mean, it's not California.
Right.
It's not. The other thing is we're just very much, all the automakers, Toyota is now claiming the RAV4 is only going to be sold in California.
Oh,
that's where
really?
most of the demand is. So when we talk about a national sales thing, there are areas where these companies are focusing and do have vehicles available, while here in Cape Girardeau, neither a Volt nor a Leaf has ever visited. I couldn't buy one on a bet.
No.
By the way, I'd love either one. I'm sure I would spend days with it and would just have a ball. I would count myself among the low-hanging fruit.
Right. Yep.
But my question is, what is the number of people already so inclined that they've been waiting for electric cars out of the general automobile population? I think they'll run through them quite quickly. I don't even think it's going to amount to 20,000 cars. Now, how are we going to get to 375,000 cars per year electric, where we can claim the beginning of the early adoption
early
phase?
Adoption, yeah, when we're at the 2%.
And so it's, you know, a big disjuncture. Again, the 12 blind men around the elephant all trying to describe what it looks like. Yeah, a number of our readers took exception and corrected me that it was 10,000 more wide. Well, that's great, except I'm talking about the U.S. But your point is what?
Yeah, that's right. It's even worse.
They have much lower sales densities than I was willing to talk about. It's some of these guys, it's hard to communicate. Researchers at Ford and the University of Michigan have done a survey of lithium, and they have found enough lithium in all the known deposits to power all the conceivable automobiles you might ever want to use until the year 2100.
There you go.
This is nonsense, too. Lithium is most readily available from seawater. Mm-hmm. And that's why in Chile, is it?
Bolivia? Bolivia, I think, yeah.
Yeah, they have an inland saltwater sea that dried up.
Yeah.
And when they say that they have the largest known deposits of lithium, what they're talking about is it's one of the few places in the world where you can walk out on a lake bed and kick
it's just right all over you. It's right there. Get it on the bottom of your shoes.
And it's because they evaporated a big sea.
Big sea, yeah, inland sea.
Actually, our ocean contains a recoverable amount of lithium and a recoverable concentration. I would say that would take some technology and some development expense to, and I'm not sure at what economic level that would be feasible. Certainly
a lot of energy
at the $600 or $700, or $6 or $7 per pound that lithium fetches. Who would want to do that?
No, you'd spend way more in energy.
It's easier to shovel it up off the ground in Bolivia.
Right.
But lithium is not a rare mineral in the sense that gold is, or neodymium or something. It's not really a rare earth.
Right.
Lithium is readily available, and in fact is in seawater. You almost can't escape lithium. It has, and this is because it has a terrific affinity for water. This is one of the problems with lithium, is you can't let it touch water. In any event, the whole argument is specious to a degree because we don't really use very much lithium in a lithium-ionic battery.
No, it's just a tiny bit. Yeah.
It's 2 to 3% of the weight of the battery is lithium at all, and that's a lithium salt.
Right.
It's a lithium-ion battery, and that covers a multitude of sins, as I was describing last week. The Leaf and the Volt are both a lithium manganese spinel. Spinel is simply a cubic crystalline structure. We use lithium iron phosphates cells that have an olivine structure. That's a octorhombic.
Yeah.
It's simply the way the crystalline lattice appears geometrically. Spinel doesn't mean anything for the chemistry other than the crystal. So lithium manganese oxide is the word they're trying to avoid using.
Yes.
Now, General Motors has licensed a technology from the Argonne National Laboratory that's a new kind that your friend at Very Small Particle Company alluded to. It's a nickel magnesium cobalt oxide combination, a hybrid cell. And it has a lot of promise as far as energy density.
Oh, good.
These are still metal oxide lithium ionic cells. And the problem is at temperatures around 90 or 100 degrees centigrade,
which is easily achievable.
It's quite achievable.
Yeah, easily achievable.
They begin to release oxygen from the bonds of the metal oxide. And this is why you have these thermal runaway fires of a laptop or a cell phone. Cobalt being the easiest because it has the lowest temperature at which free oxygen is released. Manganese is a little bit better, but it's still a metal oxide battery. By the way, whenever you're looking at these batteries on these OEM cars and you're comparing it to what I've talked about charging and voltages and stuff, they have a completely different open circuit voltage, you understand. They have a different charge voltage. You could not use you know, one of their specific chargers on our batteries because they're going to charge to a different voltage level. They're a different chemistry. They are indeed called lithiums. This goes back to the conversation I had with Kevin Hines with the Speedsters, that he has a brother-in-law who is in the radio control lipo cell business, and he tells him you got to have a BMS.
Yeah. Well,
you know, I don't know. Probably so.
You may have to,
because that's a completely different kind of battery.
That's a different animal there.
And I won't say they're as different as lead acid or nickel cadmium, but they are a completely different chemistry. Yeah. We use a lithium iron phosphate cell that I believe, I have to look this up, I think the number is 288 degrees centigrade is where it will release oxygen, by the way. It is a lithium iron oxide phosphate, and you can pry oxygen out of it. These batteries, if you get them going, they will make a hellacious fire.
Yeah.
That I'm not implying that they're fireproof. We have cars that have just burned to the ground using these cells. And I mean burn up everything around them. But they're much more robust than a metal oxide cell. All of them use tiny bits of lithium.
A little bit.
General Motors, despite selling 125 volts in July, is they've got kind of religion on the electric car, it appears. They're making all the noises. They've just done a deal with A123.
Yeah, an undisclosed, we're not quite sure what that all is.
We don't know what it's for.
But it affected their stock positively.
Well, it should have. General Motors has done a deal with A123. A123 is the battery maker that only sells to OEMs who has never sold yet to an OEM. But they only sell to OEMs. They purport to sell to Fisker, and Fisker has selected them as absolutely the best battery there is after A123 put $30 million into Fisker. So Fisker is basically using free batteries for some years, using A123's investors' money to purchase A123 cells, so their sales will be higher. Now they have finally done a deal with Chevrolet, but we don't know for what car. They didn't
disclose for what car,
or what amount. I imagine it was some gratuitous contract to keep a finger in the dike.
Keep them on the hook,
You know, LG Chem is where they get most of their cells right now, but I think General Motors is, they were wanting to have their own battery. That's a whole other business, and it's going to move quite rapidly, and ultimately they're going to determine that they need to be buying them, but they need to keep tabs on where the best ones are. And so I thought that was an interesting development. They've also are talking again about the Cadillac Converge.
Yeah, I found a little thing on that too. Yeah, on the Converge.
Yeah, and of course they're showing the concept car of the Converge. And here's the problem that I have with that. I really like the Chevy Volt concept car.
Yeah.
In fact, it looked a lot like this Converge concept car.
I think it was. Yeah.
Except that's not the car they built.
And that's not the car they built. No.
The original Volt looked evil.
Yeah.
it was a bad to the bone.
Yeah,
Manly, kind of muscular
Yeah,
looking.
kind of like a Camaro cross
somewhat
kind of look.
sinister looking
Yeah.
car.
Yeah, it was.
And what they came out with was a mommy van type sedan thing, that hatchback, flavor-swaving, that isn't appealing to me at all. But that said, my concept is it's easier to bury the cost of an electric car in an upscale vehicle than it is in an economy model.
I think they've come to that realization now.
And I think they'll wind up coming around to that.
I do too.
What else you got?
That was it. That was my last.
I've covered all of them.
Yeah, I think we
Couple
got it
more. This is kind of interesting. In July, if you take all the vehicles sold in July and do an average of their efficiency, you get a 21.6 miles per gallon.
Well, it means people are still buying trucks and SUVs, I take it.
They are.
Yeah, it must be the number one
our
seller.
national fleet average of all the cars on the road is 21.3. The new cars in July averaged 21.6. This 21.5 comes up a lot and has for a number of years.
Like a century.
Now, the Obama administration, in the Democratic Party ongoing hallucination, daydream, fantasy world, has decreed that by 2025 there'll be a 54.5 miles per gallon.
We'll be going around on bicycles that are gas powered.
Motorcycles
barely get that right now.
I think the Obama administration should probably just jump up and build themselves a car and show me.
Yeah, because if they're talking about
a survey of the automotive engineers at the OEMs indicates a very cautious optimism.
I think so, because even if you talk about lightweight materials, getting the best you can out of engines, I mean, aerodynamics, that's a lot.
They desperately need then to foster the sale of a lot of electrics. If they can average that in, then you have your 21.6 offset by some zeros.
You get your cafe.
Would be, perhaps they would get there. But internal combustion engine fleet to the American public, you would have to have $32 gasoline. Which brings up another little thing I think is kind of cool, just because it's disruptive and good drama. Not because it's good for anybody. The next congressional battle. Guess when the federal gasoline tax expires forever?
Forever? Next year?
September this year.
Of this year, oh man.
18.4 cent federal excise tax on gasoline.
Boy, and they need money.
Goes away.
Well, unless they reauthorize it and then increase it.
Well, the Tea Party guys are saying no taxes.
Uh-oh.
And so the Republicans are already making noises that they're not going to go along. This would normally be an automatically renewed thing, except they have this World War III. It's broken out in Congress.
Right.
And it could be very interesting. It will surprise you good Republicans and Libertarians to find that I actually favor a tax on gasoline. I favored it here in Cape Girardeau locally for some time. We're on Interstate Highway 55, and we have a big bunch of hotels out there and restaurants and so forth. And a lot of people stopping to refuel. And I like the restaurant and hotel tax and the gasoline tax that we have locally, because it let some of those passing by participate and help fund my town.
That's right.
And that's always a good thing. And why would I want a federal tax on gasoline? I'd like to see a $5 tax on gasoline. And I'd like to see that to forestall and give us some additional time to work on the electrification of our transport to avoid a financial disaster.
Yeah, we can end up one.
Now, this is a little counterintuitive. How do you avoid $4 gasoline by having a $5 tax on it?
Well, you do something about the demand now and get people to go in alternative energies.
Well, what I would propose they do, and this will help in their budget thing and improve our roads.
Nice roads.
And they can use some of it to develop batteries and so forth. It would be a good income stream. But it's the concept is you tax what you want a lot less of, and you subsidize what you want a lot more of. Yeah. We're subsidizing
we're not good at
unemployment.
Yeah, no, we're not very good at this.
And we're taxing savings and investment. There's a basic problem. But let's say we had a $5 per gallon gasoline tax, effective January 1st to the degree of 25 cents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the following January 1st, we added another 25 cents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't have
and
to be
we
all
raised
once,
it 25 cents per year for 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be $5 at the end of 20 years.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The 25 cents wouldn't have a great deal of economic impact this year.
No.
And another 25 next year wouldn't either. However, everyone in the game, including the automobile manufacturers that Obama, when you leave, they're still here, and their history is to simply grind down the politicos that are there until they get the CAFE standard reversed.
Until they get it reversed, yeah.
With the gas tax, they would have an incentive and a knowledge ahead of time that Americans are going to want more fuel-efficient cars because the price of the gas
at the end is going to get
now
ugly.
you can have the Middle East and the terrorists raise your gas prices, or you can do it yourself. And this is what's happened in Europe. Most of the European nations have a $4 or $5
tax.
a gallon
Yeah.
tax on their gasoline, so they won't be victims of it. But it's a very predictable thing. Instead of introducing that, let's phase it in a quarter a year, forever.
And that might have take the pressure off of demand a little bit and actually maybe drop the price of oil.
I'd go beyond $5. I'd just say the gas tax is 25 cents, and where it's going to be an additional 25 cents the 1st of January forever.
Forever, yeah.
And 200 or 300 years from now, gasoline could be quite expensive. But we will have moved on by now.
Unless oil's free and then it's all taxed.
So I don't automatically fall into the Republican camp. I'm actually a libertarian, if anybody cares. We have to consort with Republican. Libertarians don't have meetings in political parties. Too much authority structure.
That's right. They can't get along.
They
can't get along either.
We can't have that level of organization. Tesla has done some, and this is actually, I happen to know, they don't say in this press release, but it's their Park Meadows store in Colorado.
Oh, in Colorado, okay.
12,000 visitors a week coming to these Tesla stores.
That's amazing.
What is that guy's name? He used to work for Apple.
He used to work for Apple.
George Blankenship, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And he worked for Gap for 20 years. Elon Musk, he went to work for Apple and did the Apple stores, the Crystal Cube in Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Down by Central Park.
Yep.
It is George Blankenship's vision, and Apple's done very well with those stores.
Very, very well.
But he now works for Tesla and is setting up these retail sites where you go in and can kick the tires and watch some videos and feel the leather and see the colors and so forth. The Roadster is $150,000. They're not selling a whole lot of them, but they're selling a few more than they had predicted. But the Model S is not even available yet. And but people just coming in the store to look. 12,000 visitors a week.
That's
in
amazing.
one retail.
That's
not across your stores. This is one retail
amazing.
location. That's pretty heavy traffic.
Yeah, that's a lot to get people to stop in and look. Yeah.
I received a thing today noting that 10 days from now I'm going to receive an invitation to come out to view the beta
out in Palo Alto. Yeah, right.
And I think we'll go.
Want to go? Okay.
And that'll be cool. That's all the rumors and news I have, Brain.
Yep, that's what I've got too.
We've had a cooler week. We've done a little bit of stuff. I've got most of the battery boxes finished on the Cobra.
Yep.
We need probably 2 more small ones. I just don't know where we're going to put them.
I know.
Right now I have 104 cells balanced, installed, and wired up in the car.
Yeah, no, it's looking really good.
But we need 140. And I have 104. We need to get some more in. We're going to have to put in the transmission and the motor,
right, so
I can see what we can do there.
Yeah, that's the only way we're going to get an idea how much space we have left.
We've finally done a little bit on the insertion of the drivetrain into the Cobra. It's not in, but we're creeping up on it 1 bolt at a time. I'm having to throw a fit to get each washer and each bolt put on the car individually by teams of people who get together and vote on each washer and each bolt to put
well,
this
they're
in.
special.
But they're all special.
They're all special.
And let's take a look at that.
All right, let's do it.
We're getting closer on the Cobra. This is our motor, our 11 HV. If you recall, we assembled the pressure plate and the clutch, so forth to it. This is our Turbo XS turbos. It's a Garrett turbocharger that's been remanufactured with an electric motor, and we have a little shield around the motor so it'll blow cooling air up its skirt. We're getting ready to put it in the car. We've got the transmission in and are finalizing the mounting there, and this of course will bolt to our transmission adapter. Before we do all that, it would be nice to make sure that we have an operating motor and that this business we've added runs true and relatively vibration free, and that we don't have any problems before we lift this 223-pound motor using this eye bolt here into the vehicle. The eye bolt's threaded into a hole provided for that. These other holes have little caps on them. They're actually part of what holds the fields in position. But I do have one on each side and one on the top that I can put an eye bolt in and use to move the motor about, which at 223 pounds is non-trivial. This is a 12-volt battery. Now these motors, when you test them, you do not want to apply a high voltage of any kind to them, even for a brief instant. And there's a reason. DC series motor without a load on it blows up really quickly with a higher voltage. But at 12 volts, you're kind of the back EMF. The motor limits the RPMs, and so the motor isn't damaged. We've hooked up S1 to A1. That's our armature, or the rotor, the first terminal of that to the first terminal of our field coil. And that's what makes it be in series. That leads us to connect our negative cable to S2 and the positive cable to A2. And so our current flow, or electron flow actually, will go in our stator 2, out stator 1, so it's going through the field coils, and then it's going to go around to armature 1 and out armature 2. If you're a whole flow current guy, it's the reverse. I recently got a message from George Hamstra at Netgain. George is now going to be doing 2 sessions at the electric vehicle conversion convention. He's kind of gotten into this, is working on some presentations. I think they're really going to be quite the thing. But he did note that he got a message in turn from Hellwig, who makes his brushes. Apparently a silicon of any kind anywhere near the motor, in fact just fumes from silicone, will deteriorate those brushes almost instantly. He sounded quite alarmed about it. So don't use silicone sealants or silicone to cover connections or anything to keep the water out, because it destroys the brushes. And don't let any of your lady friends who may have had breast augmentation surgery lean over the motor, because silicone will destroy the brushes. This is simply a test to see if wired up this way, we would expect the motor to rotate counterclockwise. Drive in is how Netgain portrays this. CCWDE, counterclockwise from the drive-in. So if you were facing the drive-in, we should rotate in a counterclockwise direction. And I'm going to hook up our battery here, and we're spinning up, and it increases in RPM a little alarmingly. Is this the point where it turns into a hand grenade? No. As you'll see, it reaches a certain point and then it simply doesn't get any faster. That's the electromotive back EMF of the motor restricting its RPM. But that's with 12 volts. If we went to a higher voltage, we would actually destroy this motor almost instantly. You cannot put a DC series motor not under load, and so you don't ever want to apply voltage to one of these motors. So you have to kind of watch your shifting in the manual transmission too. But as you can see, we are rotating. We've got a little bit of vibration, but not badly. I think shock mounted, that would be very good. And looking at our flywheel and pressure plate spin, I'm not seeing any wobble at all with the eye. It's running very true and seems to be reasonably well balanced. I would say that's a good 1500 RPM, and it seems to be running quite true and relatively vibration free. I can get a little jiggle in there, but that would be going down the road a pretty good lick. And of course this will be shock mounted. And so that is our motor test. We've actually in the past run these like that for hours, just to ensure the seating of the brushes. I've kind of peeked in here at these. They're under this panel, and they look pretty good to me. So I'm not going to worry about that too much. But that is our, and we were going counterclockwise drive end, and that would be, of course, clockwise from your aux end. And so I'd say the motor is operational, turning in the right direction. The connections work as we would expect them to. We do not have our controller yet, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at mounting this motor here pretty soon with the transmission. and that's going to get us to our, we pretty much have to have the motor and transmission in and positioned in order for me to see what's left with regards to room for the batteries. Right now, we have the equivalent of 52 of the 180 amp cells. It's actually 104 of the 90 amp hour cells. I need about another 36 cells, or 18 more 180s to get this up to the voltage where this motor starts to come into play. And it's kind of like getting 12 pounds of potatoes into a 10-pound sack. The motor, by my best measurements, comes up, I'm not sure I would even have 11 or 12 inches to the hood to put batteries over it. So we're going to have to go ahead and mount this and get it hooked up to see if there's any possibility there as far as battery mounting. So right now we're focused a little bit on getting the transmission and the motor in the car. The battery boxes we have so far, I have completed. They're all balanced to 2.75 volts, and I've got them hooked up with the shielded cable. And so we're going to start adding DC to DC converters and a couple of terminal bars where we can hook up to that pack voltage. And I may go ahead and charge them at the 52 cells and add in the additional cells later. Again, by taking them down and bottom balancing them, but we might put a little bit of charge on them. But that's the motor. Again, do not allow silicon anywhere near the brushes. And we've got proper rotation, minimal vibration. This is spinning true, so we won't have any surprises. I won't say we won't have any surprises, but we're trying to reduce the number of surprises that occur in the car after we hoist 223 pounds plus this, so about 250 pounds of motor into the drive bay and get it all lined up and mounted, and then find out we have to undo all of that because of some problem. It's been my experience we'll have to undo all that for some other reason, but we're trying to eliminate some of the obvious ones. And right now it's spinning quietly in the right direction, and with, I think, certainly an acceptable level of vibration that if I could put this on a couple polyurethane shock mounts to the frame, I think would be very smooth. This episode of EVTV is brought to you by the Winston Battery Company Limited, makers of high-capacity lithium yttrium rare earth cells, including the popular 160 amp-hour model featuring cycle lives in excess of 5,000 cycles when discharged to 70%, the longest useful working life of any available battery of any chemistry. A leading battery technology scientist, inventor, and entrepreneur since 1995, Mr. Winston Chung envisions a new world of clean electric power for the dawn of a new era of electric vehicles. For your next electric vehicle design project, contact Winston Battery Limited. Energy for a bright future. Okay, Brain, let's talk a little bit about this transmission thing.
Alrighty.
You've got done here. We've added some mounts to the front of the transmission.
Yes, we've got our, up here at the bell housing end, we've had some mounts fabricated. Danny Sissom came over. He's Danny Sissom Racing and Michael Jessup. They do circle track cars here, and they are pretty good fabricators and fairly fast. So they made us a couple of mounts here out of some 3/8 inch steel with some ears. They're going into some, I think we said some urethane mounts from an RX-7.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? So about an inch mount. Had to put a spacer on this one because of the way the the way everything's set up here. But we are looking pretty good with this. So we're shock mounted here in the front and got some nice custom mounts to mount this to the frame.
Okay. I like the polyurethane mounts.
I do too.
Those are from a Mazda RX-7, and that'll give us some vibration isolation. And this, of course, is on the front. Now, when we put the electric motor in, aren't we going to have bolts go through those mounts and through the motor?
We are, but we only have to pull the bolts, the nuts off here, and we can just do 2 at a time when we run them in. So we'll put the motor from this side. We'll pull all these nuts off. The tranny will still be up there, and then we'll just push a bolt through at a time, so we won't have to worry about the transmission.
Oh, okay. So that'll hold the transmission.
That'll hold, right.
Okay.
We'll just have to we just can't pull them all out.
Okay, let's talk about our throw-out bearing here, Brain.
Okay, what we've got here is we've got a stock Ford setup here, and we're going to have to set this up so that it runs through the proper through the proper curve where this will be flat through everything. So it'll probably be just about here and run out. It has an external slave cylinder, and we actually contemplated at one point running a hydraulic throw-out bearing, and basically that would replace this entire shift fork, and it's a hydraulic bearing that the line's coming from the back and pushes this throw-out bearing forward.
Well, that seems like that'd be a neat installation.
It is, and a lot of the race car guys use it. In fact, Danny had suggested it. We had looked at it before, and couldn't remember why we opted to go with the shift fork. And I made a call back to Mike Fortis yesterday, where we got this transmission. It's at Fortis Performance Products, and he told me that it works. They do work well. You really can't tell the difference in terms of the operation. However, once you've got that hydraulic throw-out bearing in here, if anything fails, and normally the pressure side, the cylinder would fail. If it does, you have to pull the motor, in our case, to be able to get to this. Where if we have a failure here, our slave cylinder is mounted externally, and we don't have to worry about it. We can just pop that off, rebleed the system relatively easily, and we're off to the races.
Okay, so it's really a maintenance issue. We would be able to replace that slave cylinder without removing the motor and transmission.
That's really what they're talking about. And the guys who do race, circle track, things like that, they're always taking the vehicles apart so much that they really don't consider sometimes the longevity of the item. And here, we want this to last as long as the vehicle. We don't want to be tearing the motor out to change something like this hydraulic throw-out bearing.
Well, and if it does fail, we want it to be the easiest maintenance operation we can make it.
Sure, and that'll be just getting externally in here and dealing with the slave cylinder.
With our clutch and pressure plate, hydraulic system's pretty much required.
It is. We've got a real heavy clutch and pressure plate.
So a little bit of extra complication there, but it gives us a little better leverage. It'll be a more drivable car. It
really does. It'll be easier, to shift, and you don't have to have a leg like a bodybuilder to make that operate that clutch.
I'm kind of struck by the level of fabrication here, Brain. These kit cars, I don't know what I expected, but I guess I thought it would come with everything you needed to just bolt in a transmission. But I guess they use so many different transmissions.
Yeah. We've had we just with the Tremix, we could have a couple of different Tremec options, the 6, the 5. We could have a couple of different Ford options. People could use Chevy power plants in these cars, automatics, manuals. So there really are a myriad of options for transmissions. So it really is up to the end user, in our case us, to go ahead and choose the transmission and fabricate the mounting.
Yeah, Eric Chris had mentioned that these transmissions don't install themselves on these kit cars.
No, they don't.
I mean, we're used to more the VW thing, which really they do.
They really do. I mean, you've got the nose cone mount and you've got the swing axle mounts, and that you can bolt in any transmission you like as long as it's a VW swing axle transmission.
Right, and I'm just used to it having all the holes and so forth right there.
Right.
But this is a little bit different thing. Well, it looks good. Let's take a look at the aft side of it.
All right, great.
Okay, Brian, what are we doing on the back end of the transmission here?
Now for our rear transmission mount, they fabricated us a cross mount that goes between these two frame rails. It bolts up to a urethane mount. We've actually got a low profile one. This is what the mount looks like, but we've got one that's about half of this size. This is the one that came with came with our transmission, but we needed something, otherwise this would be hanging down really low. As you can see, they put a little angle in here, cut out a little piece of metal, bent it up, and then filled it up with welded a little tab on here.
So the one that came from Mike Fortis?
Yeah, originally, yeah, was this big one.
And you went to a low profile.
Yeah, you might be able to see it here. It's probably about an inch or so, inch and a quarter, where this was a couple inches. And it kept this from hanging down so low, so it was worth it to change that out.
Okay. And so we just have a little bit of a dip there.
Right.
Now, how's your drive shaft gonna? And that's so that's the shock mount there. So you have 2 points in the front.
Yes.
That are the
here and here, right?
Now let me see if I can get a close up and be able to see that front one. Well, it's pretty dark in there.
Okay, pretty dark.
But that's a polyurethane mount from a Mazda RX-7. And then you had to go back and get a different low profile mount.
Right.
Was that back to Fortis?
That was back to Fortis for that rear mount, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And that's going to work really, really well. So we're shock mounted with like materials. It's all polyurethane, so we didn't mix rubber and polyurethane, which is a no-no. And we're shock mounted on all 3 of our mounting positions here. Okay.
And the back beam here that sort of came.
Yes.
He had that in. That's some sort of a loop for the drive shaft. If it breaks loose, it doesn't come up and get in the car with you.
Right. It's got a little hoop here to catch that, and you can see if we slide this yoke out, it's interfering or being interfered with by this cross member here, which we need. So what we're going to do, and you can see here, we've got a circle that it would have to be that much of a circle for us to be able to, feel secure that we wouldn't, get our what do you call them, our U-joints hitting this. So instead, what we're going to do, instead of cutting this out, filling this up with, with steel plate, we're going to go ahead and cut this straight down right here. We've got the battery boxes as our lowest point. We're going to go ahead and just weld another piece of tube underneath this, and that'll give us a real nice cross mount here.
Okay, yeah. So just cut out that section and then put in the construction trades floor joist. We call that a sister.
There you go. We're going to put a sister here. We're going to marry it together with another one. Exactly.
And again, just the box tube steel.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Well, it looks like a pretty secure mount.
I think so.
And then you're going to have to get a custom drive shaft made?
We are. We're going to have to get a custom drive shaft here. We're going to use this slip yoke here, and we'll get a drive shaft here and have to have this measured, and we'll have it fabricated in town. And we're going to use a relatively small and strong drive shaft, since we've really only got a span of about a foot, maybe 14 inches, maybe less than that, with the U-joints on it. So we'll have that fabricated in town, and we can have that next week. We'll be able to put the drive shaft in and our motor in, and we can start to look at our battery box size and have this drivetrain up and in the car.
That would be profoundly satisfying to me.
Yes.
Again, these projects go on, and this one, I think I told the guy 3 months, and it's been 3 months.
Yeah, it has.
And we're just now getting the main battery boxes done. But again, our experience has been with this, once you get the batteries in, piecing the rest of it together, it really comes together pretty quickly, wouldn't you say?
It really does.
Once you get the transmission and the motor in, then
yes,
we're down to wiring some things up and configuring them, and then the next thing you know,
it's rolling.
We'll be fully engaged in the building of it, and all of a sudden we'll turn to each other, and I can't think of a reason not to roll it out the door, at least run it a block and see if we can get away with it.
Exactly.
Before the constabulary stops us.
We'll have to get a police escort.
And so you know, we're getting quite a bit closer.
We are.
I'm still concerned, as I have been from the beginning. Well, actually, the beginning I thought I had a lot of room for batteries.
Yeah, it looked like we had acres of room.
We don't have acres. We're running it real close.
We are.
This car is going to be packed with batteries, and as to the DC to DC converter, the controller, and the charger, I don't even know where we're going to put those. That's after I get the batteries finalized.
We'll see where our opportunities are to mount those.
But it's coming along underneath. Looks good.
It is. Thanks.
All right.
Masterflux proudly presents the Sierra Series brushless DC variable speed electric compressors. The Masterflux family of compressors are up to 40% smaller and lighter than competing belt-driven DC automotive compressors. Masterflux uses rare earth neodymium magnets for longer life and greater efficiency. The robust rotary design is ideally suited for rugged EV applications. With a scroll-type compressor, the process begins with the refrigerant entering the evaporator from the suction side. Refrigerant then travels through a reed valve to the top of the compressor, where it is compressed at up to 8 times the incoming pressure before exiting out the discharge tube to the condenser. Masterflux compressors are available in 400 to 15,000 BTU per hour capacity range for multiple refrigerants, including 134A. Output can be manually adjusted using a simple 0 to 5 volt pot. Masterflux compressors are available to handle input voltages of 12 to 420 volts DC and come with a specific BLDC motor controller for each voltage range. The new Masterflux 2011 product catalog can be downloaded from their website at www.masterflux.com. Masterflux products are available in the US from Revolt Custom Electric Vehicles, in Australia from EV Works, and in South Asia from EV World. Masterflux, the technically elegant choice for powerful electric air conditioning.
That's progress. That's a big deal. Because you're right. When we were talking about that, this is not like doing the VW projects and things. It's like we got to decide what transmission to use, where to put it, the whole thing. So I'm feeling pretty good. We're moving ahead in a big way.
It's just like building a house, Brian. You dig a hole in the ground and you work for 4 or 5 weeks getting the foundation laid. Framing it up takes another 2 days.
Yeah, right. All of a sudden there's a house taking shape.
Roof takes 2 days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then you're inside doing finish work for the next 9 weeks.
Right, yeah.
And
then you're moving in.
And so the apparent progress is in spurts. Getting the batteries laid out and in has been a big thing. Acquiring some of the parts has been a deal. And and now it's kind of bolting down and tightening up and lining up the drivetrain. And after that, it kind of falls over. I need, like I say, I need to work in another 36 cells, which is a pretty good size box, or 2 sort of small ones. We have to find places and run wires for DC to DC converter, charger, controller, a little plumbing on the controller for the water, glycol and solution. We got a big task with the dashboard on this.
Yeah.
But I understand you have that all covered.
It would.
It would. And so, you know, there'll be some wiring, but it'll go remarkably quickly at that point until we're rolling along. And so I think it's, this car's been harder than I expected. The components have been more expensive than I expected.
Yeah, and the choices, the just even component selection has been a little more grueling. You know, up at upper power levels and things like that. It's been interesting.
Yeah, and you run into some strange things. Having too many choices is kind of. So they're telling me that this third member on the differential that I can get in aluminum and different, you know, quick change stuff and all this. Frankly, they virtually pay me to haul it away, and it always works with anything. And this is just, it'd save 100 pounds. Well, 100 pounds?
100 pounds, yeah. Kind of perk up at 100 pounds.
Okay, let's get one. Can't get one for your car.
Can't go in for our car.
Why not?
We don't. We'd have to replace the entire
It's
rear
the wrong
end.
rear end.
Yeah, we'd have to replace the
Wait
entire
a minute,
rear end.
it's the Ford 9-inch rear end. Well, they're all Ford 9-inch rear ends, but there's a whole lot of different ones.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to use the one the racers use.
This is why I didn't like working on cars as a kid. I went to the counter 4 times every time I went to get a replacement part, and they would explain to me patiently, that's not the one I wanted this one. Give it to me, I get home and it wouldn't fit the car.
And you don't even have a car to drive back.
Right. And it's not the electronics that's the problem with these electric cars, it's the existing auto guys.
Yeah.
A Ford 9-inch means any of a number of things.
A number of things, yeah.
And some things fit and some don't. And we, of course, have the wrong one.
Yeah, and we could replace the whole rear end. But
Now, since we started from dirt, how did we wind up with the wrong one?
We'll have to ask Brian.
Yeah, and
Granby.
But this is the sort of thing. If we did one again, we would just tell
We would
Brian,
spec this from the beginning.
We are all eat up with desire to hear all your opinion. Now get this aluminum rear end,
Aluminum
quick
rear
change
end, yep.
pack, and the whole thing,
Oh, yeah.
and stick that in the car, and then send it to us.
Right, right.
And
We could get shock absorbers, A-arms. There's a lot of stuff we could do to lighten that car.
yes, there is.
Yeah.
But at this point,
We got to live with, run with what you brung.
yeah. We're almost doing. We've replaced the wheels and tires already.
Yeah, we did. We got that done.
and saved 100 pounds just for that. If they don't work out as low rolling resistance, we get 2 miles more range by swapping out the tires and wheels.
Just the weight.
And so we're going to have a little side project we're going to try to work in here with the Spider. We got that car from Dwayne and Scott, and they did a marvelous job, but of course, it wasn't invented here, so we want to change it all.
That's right. We got a mess. We're like lawyers. We have
He's
to pee all
got some
over it.
911 wheels that are on there with some adapters that make them stick out, which made them have to jack up the front end of the car so they could steer. And the whole thing, in my mind, isn't right, but I wanted to try something anyway, and that's an air-cooled rotor and hat system that and some lighter aluminum, plainer aluminum wheels, and all that's going to be $2,000 or $3,000 to fix a car that already runs great, but it should cut 150 pounds off of our unsprung weight.
Yeah. Yep.
And it should make the car drive quite a bit better, I would think.
And I can get it down a little lower and tighter too. That'll make the handling
Well, that's
crisper.
the thing, is once we get the wheels back in where they belong, then the front end comes down, and it's just a whole different vehicle. So we're going to play with that. But one of the reasons we're playing with that is that if we were able to ever order another Speedster, for example,
And we know.
and they had their new frame stuff, we would know about these
Sure.
running gear that would save 147 pounds,
Right.
I think.
Spec these parts out.
For the vehicle. And again, every time you shave off 100 or 150 pounds, even at some expense, it kind of puts you in the camp with race car guys. Things that don't make sense with a street car does to a race car guy, because they need to shave weight to get speed. Well, guess what? Electric cars are the same way.
We got
for
the same issue.
reason.
Yep.
And the economics work out kind of the same. Yeah, it is worth it. Yeah, it's $1,500. It's also 150 pounds, and your car runs better. You know, that's the trade.
And we're finding some of the parts too, especially for the Cobra. You know, some of these guys are on a budget, and there are lighter cars. You know, especially these guys are doing dirt track racing, and those parts are not that exotic.
Well, they're really not that expensive.
No.
But you run into things like that clutch, where you have to watch them, because some of these guys, they tear the car down every Monday.
Right.
After the race, they take it all apart.
And they're not thinking about that.
And like that internal clutch.
Yeah, that hydraulic throw-up bearing. Yeah.
We've actually been through this twice on one program. The program's going on long enough that we went through this, forgot it, and went through it again.
That's right.
And it's still the same.
Yeah.
You don't want a hydraulic clutch slave inside the transmission,
Right.
when you can have it outside the transmission because
Right.
it's a failure item.
It's a failure item, exactly. And they have to pull the entire motor.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the racing world, why is that a problem? They
It
pull
comes
it
out
every
every
Monday
week. It
morning
comes out
anyway. They
every
pull
week.
it just to take a look inside.
That's right. They didn't even have to. Just take it apart.
There's nothing wrong with
Nothing
the motor.
better to
They
do.
pull it and look at it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, we're driving a street car. We don't want to do that.
No,
So
we don't have tear downs
that's,
every Monday.
But you do find the racing community has a lot in common with the electric car community, particularly when it comes to weight.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And so forth. What's the name? Danny Sills?
Danny,
He made us some
Stim-
brackets for
yeah.
that transmission. Well, oftentimes we have a bracket made. We get back a thing this big, made out of iron. And Matt Hauber, the steel wrecker, he wanted everything to be steel. This guy made some very small
this
brackets,
big. Yeah.
for the front, and fairly. But that's because that's how race guys have to think. You don't want a lot of weight
small
in the
and
car.
light. Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, Danny Sissom.
Let's just set it as a mission to not be 2.5 hours this week.
Okay, we do. I think we did want to show them one thing though. Our motor. It's we kind of turned it up a little bit. Our electric motor.
No, we already showed them that.
Oh, we did. Well then, I was been sleeping. All right. Magic of video editing.
The magic of video edit. I've got it all up here, buddy.
Glad he does.
So we're done. I'm Jack Rickard.
And I'm Brian Noto.
We'll see you all next week.